Hello, this is More Raw, and I'm your host, Tom Latcham. Well, More Raw allows us to interview people who might not quite work for the main podcast, but they are definitely 100% worth talking to. Today's guest is a perfect example of that. He's not an artist, he's not a promoter, he's not a producer, but he is one of the country's top sports stars, and he's a massive fan of 90s rave music. It is gold medal winning Paralympic athlete David Weir. Hello, David. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, all right, thanks. Am I calling you the werewolf or Mr. Werewolf or Mr. Weir?
I get called loads of things these days, mate. Yeah, when I'm walking down the street, I get, there's the wolf, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you can call me what you want, mate, to be honest.
Well, what is important is that you used to be a raver in the 90s. And I found this out on an interview that you did with Colin Murray on 5 Live. And I thought, you know what? He'd be perfect for this show. Let's get him on and talk to him all about his time as a raver back in the 90s. So why don't you tell us about your love for the 90s rave scene and how it all came about and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it goes right back really to the mid 80s, I think, and my brothers were like big into house music, so they were the ones that went to IB for when it happened, and they were the first pioneers. I actually googled where the estate I grew up on, and obviously my name's all over it because of what I've done, but at the bottom it says were the pioneers of the first acid rave ravers. So it was,
Wow.
it's been, so our estate sort of like, not the pioneers, but they were the makers, and they sort of went places and new clubs, and they were a face in the scene. So it was just like, it was bred into me as an early age, so I listened to house music and stuff like that. But obviously I went and followed the different genres like hardcore, drum and bass and stuff like that at an early age, because I just loved that electronic sound music. Always have. Never liked chart music unless there was something in there that was more electronic-y. So, sort of like Pet Shop Boys or something like that, something different. I sort of like that sound, that man-made sound, if that makes sense. And then I just started listening to pirate radio all the time. That was a big thing for me.
What were the stations were you listening to?
Do you know what? I can't. I was trying to think back then. I can't remember the names. It probably Flex was probably one of them. I'm trying to think of the really old school one, but I can't remember it the other day. I was so young, but I was listening to a lot of local pirate radio stations and trying sticking aerials in my coat hangers in my stereo just to get a bigger signal and stuff like that. My mum used to go, "Man, where's all your coat hangers?" It was stuck in the back of the stereo, and even when I started to drive and stuff, I knew all the pirate radio stations, and I even when I got in my friends' cars, they were like, "Have you heard about this station?" And I'd know it straight away. So it was just like that. And then I used to go down to Wax City in West Croydon and buy mixtapes and just spend most of my money on mixtapes. I had the best mixtape collection that you could possibly think of, and I wish I kept them all because they're probably worth money now. But
I'm not sure they are, mate. They're all on YouTube now, by the way.
Oh yeah. But it was just that collection thing. I just wished I collected it, because it was just the amount of mixtape packs I had were incredible. But obviously when mates go, "Let me borrow it out, I'll record it," you never get them back, or they'd be worn out because
I don't know that anyone's got a 12 pack of tapes where there's still 12 tapes in them.
no, it'd be all the dodgy ones that didn't record that well,
or the shit ones that no one likes.
Yeah. So it started from that, and then it was just a craze of, and you know what, funny enough, my mate sent me today, didn't know I was doing this interview, he sent a picture of it was on Facebook or something, some random saying this was a 90s house in a kid's bedroom, was flyers all over the walls. And that's what I did, because my mum, there was two boys sharing a room, but she wanted to put flower wallpaper up. And I was like, I don't want this. Do you know, if my mates come in, they're going to take the piss out of me. So I covered it in flyers, you know, every flyer you could think of. Obviously, when I used to go down to the record shop just to get my mixtapes, I used to piles of, you know, of flyers, and then think, oh, I want to go to that rave, I'll go to this rave. So yeah, that's the start of it.
What was the, do you think, about electronic music, but also notably rave music and that sort of the early 90s sound that drew you in? What was it that really appealed to you?
I just think because it was a craze as well. I'm probably a follower. I like to follow the craze a little bit, you know, that what's in at the moment. I like that. Not so much as I got older, but when I was younger, yeah, I started. And then I just got hooked on that sort of sound, and, you know, and I loved big, powerful stereos. I just loved it loud, and as long as it was a good stereo and good sound system, I always used to just love that feeling. I don't know if it was freedom or because I was disabled, and I just felt, I don't know, it was just that feeling of the music scene and how big it was growing. I liked how it just expanded and exploded. You know what I mean? And that's what I liked. And, you know, when I went to my first raves and stuff, like hardcore raves and stuff, I used to love, you know, just being by the speakers all night, even though it was damaging my ears. I didn't really care, to be honest. And the lights and the lasers, and I just loved that sort of scene, and I've always loved it. And I can't remember when I didn't. You know, even now I talk about going raving.
Well, we'll talk about that a bit later. But did you find with your disability that raves were a place that were accepting? I mean, we all know the sort of the phrase peace, love, unity, respect. Did you really feel that as someone who maybe might not have felt it outside of raves?
Yeah, 100%. You didn't feel different in a rave. You might look different, and obviously, and you're going through the crowd, and, you know, people moving out of the way for you, but you had a lot of respect from the ravers, you know. And back, there was no race issue, no, you know, I don't know if it's because everyone was off their head, but, you know, it was just, it just felt love. Everyone just loved the music, and that was it. They were there for the music and nothing else. No, it didn't matter where you was from, what estate you was from. Everyone loved each other, and that's what I loved. I just, you know, it was a bit of freedom, I think.
And can you recall your first rave? Which one was it? How old were you? Where was it?
Yeah, and do you know what? I tried to look the other day, my first rave ticket, and I kept it. But because I've moved house a few times, I know I've got it somewhere because I've seen it. But I put it in an old um, game box, like see-through packet, and it was a world dance ticket and coach ticket. Um, and I remember my brother, my eldest brother's 18 years older than me, and he said to me, "What do you want for Christmas?" I went, "I want a world dance ticket." He went, "Ain't that a rave?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Does mum know?" I went, "Yeah, of course she does." And he didn't believe me, so he asked her. And she said, "Yeah, you can go as long as he's going with these certain people." I was only, I think I was about 14 or 15,
Of
which
course.
was weird. But yeah, which was weird because on the estate, my mum was so strict at what time to be in. And I was thinking, I said to her, "You know, it's all night." She went, "Yeah, but I'm trusting you." And I was thinking, I ain't gonna
Wow.
ask her again. I'm not gonna ask her again. So I said to my brother, "What can I get that ticket?" So give me the money. I had to go and get the ticket and come back. Obviously, I sent someone in who was older than me to get the ticket, and then I showed him the ticket, and I kept that one ticket, and that was my first experience of raving. I think Wembley Arena.
Wow. And can you recall the feelings of going there? You know, the journey there, the excitement you were feeling, getting in the queue to get in, and then
Yeah,
going there and hearing that massive booming
yeah.
sound system.
Yeah, I remember panicking like before, like, you know, I don't condone you know, getting fake ID and stuff, but back in the day you had to, it was legit. So I was panicking, like trying to get some sort of ID to get me in because I looked so young, like I didn't look my age, I didn't even look bloody 14. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, there's no way I'm getting in, but I'm taking the risk, you know. So I remember going up. I don't know if I didn't get the coach in the end because there wasn't many people getting on it. There was like one person. I thought, "Do you know what? I can't be bothered with the hassle of me trying to climb up the stairs to get in the coach. and I only had one person with me. So I think we got the train up there in the end with a lot of people, and it was a lot easier for me. And I remember seeing the queue. You know, the queues were just endless. You know, going backwards and forwards, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder if I can sort of go around the sides, because I sort of like pretended to go around the side, and I had about 5 or 6 mates with me, and I remember seeing a doorman down. It must have been an exit for someone to come out, and I just said, "Look, do you mind if I go in this way because of I don't know if there's stairs that way?" He said, "You know what? You can't queue up in that, mate. Go on, go straight in." I was like, "All right, quick, come on, lads, and we just went straight in, and that was it. And then as soon as you walk through them doors, you got the cloak rooms, you got people grabbing your tickets, and you're still thinking, "Am I going to get in? Am I getting in?" Then you walk in, and it's just that mass of people, straight away. And it must have been only, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night, and everyone's just started, raving already. They've been there a couple of hours already, because it was like a long 12-hour rave, I think. And yeah, the sound system, just everything, the atmosphere, and I just loved it, to be honest.
Did any sets stand out in particular that night?
I can't remember that day who was playing, actually. I just was in awe with everything else. I love DJs. I think they're all very talented people, even from an early age, and even now with all the new technology. But back then, I think they were world class, and I just loved that sort of watching them and being that close to them to see how they do it and stuff like that. And that's where I got the bug for trying to mix as well. So yeah, just early days of raving.
How accessible were raves? Because I've often seen people in wheelchairs at raves, and so they obviously are. It's possible to get in, but how accessible generally were they?
Do you know what? The raves were better than clubs, because most of them were all on one level. They were in different arenas. If at the Sanctuary in Milton Keynes, it was the only room that was upstairs was the banging bloody techno or Gabber or whatever it was at the time, and I didn't really like that.
Not a fan.
No, it was a bit. I like house techno, but I not that sort of German, really hard sort of stomping techno. And that was the only room that I really didn't attempt to go in, because I didn't really like the music. But yeah, do you know what? It was, and for me, I was a little bit lucky because my wheelchair was quite small, so I could get into normal toilets anyway. So back then there wasn't, buildings didn't have to have disabled toilets. So I just made do, mate. I was just happy to be there. And obviously, friends, if they say I'm going to the toilet, I go, right, I'm coming with you. So it would just be easier than me trying to fight through and do it myself. So, or I'd say to one of the biggest lads that was with us, I'd say, right, I need the toilet. And he'd go, right, move out the way, like pushing people, just not nicely, but just gently pushing people out the way. Looking after me. And all I would do, going for a crowd, and I remember now, I would just look to the ground, because I didn't want to run people's feet over. That was in my head, like, I don't want to run people's feet over, because it's not a nice feeling. So I'd make sure and just touch their legs to their feet. So I'd make a path myself. So yeah, I remember always looking down and squeezing through the crowd like that in my wheelchair. So yeah, but yeah, I just loved them days back then.
Did you did the wheelchair? I mean, the wheelchair helped get you in age 14. Did it? Did it help generally in the future? Did you ever have to queue?
Not really. No. It at some places I did. Like if the doorman looked quite moody, you didn't really want to go up and ask. But then sometimes when you did go and ask, they would put a smile on their face. Yeah, come on, mate, don't worry. Do you know what I mean? We'll help you up. And we was like, oh, and that's really nice. Some doormen were like, you have to get your mates to help. Right, that's all right. I've got loads. All right. But some of them were really, really friendly. And like years gone by, when I went to Ibiza for the first time, I stayed opposite Space before it was a big club now, and I remember just going over and thinking, I wonder if I could get in. It's always on my mind, can I get in? Is it acceptable? And I remember seeing the head doorman. He must have been German or something. I just said, look, I'll come in here later. Do you reckon? He went, don't worry, you can get around everywhere. So you had some places like that, or you had some places that were just, crazy. But usually back in the day with the warehouse ravers, they were all on one level, so I was all right.
And who were your raving crew?
Most of the lads from my estate, We all had long hair, you know, middle parting. I tried to grow out for years, and then I managed to do it in the end. But yeah, going to like Helter Scout and that, probably had like a short bob down to here, like a twat. Do you know what I mean? But it was the fashion, so
Yeah.
yeah. So it was just the crew from the estate. We used to meet other people from different areas, like from Carshalton and Sutton and stuff like that, and bump into each other and stuff. And that's how that's how we used to roll. If it was a long journey, like to Milton Keynes or something, obviously we had to find people that were driving. So we had a few friends that were driving. We used to, you know, go up that way as well.
And what raves did you go to, and which ones were your real favourites?
I was actually messaged my mate this morning and said, look, I'm doing a little Zoom call about raving. You know, well, he said you've got some stories there, boy. So I couldn't remember the rave we went to. I got 2 tickets, and I was meant to go with someone else, and they pulled out. So I just turned up at his door and said, right, should we go to this? And it was United Dance was one of them. I think, was it Funkle Fusion or something like that, or Raw? You know, One Nation. Yeah, so it was like telepathy, you know, all the, yeah, so it was all sort of Helter Skelter, it was Dreamscape, you know, it was all the ones. But yeah, I had to message him this morning to say what rave did we go to there, and that was United Dance. So that was a good one. I used to like that one.
And what was it about United Dance that you used to really like?
I think it was just a mixture of DJs back then, because they played hardcore and drum and bass. And then I started to sway towards jungle and drum and bass in the end, because I preferred the bigger bass lines, a bit slower. I felt like hardcore was going a bit too fast. It was getting quicker and quicker, and not enough bass for me. I like a good bass line and stuff like that. So, and then that's when I started to go to the more drum and bass stuff, like One Nation and Raw and places like that, Telepathy and
Some of
like
them a bit moody.
Not at the beginning, I didn't find. I found they were really good, and then it started to get a bit moody, yeah, a bit aggressive and stuff like that. But still didn't have no problems though. Still really enjoyed it. I just liked the music, mate. I didn't really care where it was. I never felt unsafe in any venue that I went to. And you could see that with any music genres. They started to get a little bit darker and darker, and the drum and bass scene did start to do that in the end.
Did you ever go to any raves that you just really hated and had a shit time at?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that the other day. I'm trying to think the name of it. Was it? There was one in Hammersmith, but I can't remember the name it was. It was in a warehouse near Hammersmith, but that wasn't very good. It was just like the sound system, the lights, and it was a bit cheap. You know what I mean? I can't remember the name of it. I was trying to think of it the other day. But yeah, there was one. I really liked the atmosphere. That had to be a big thing for me. Obviously the sound systems, the DJs. I'd always look for the DJs like Kenny Ken, Randall, Ray Keith. And before that it'd be Dougal vibes, you know what I mean? So it was just make sure I find the best lineup, and then that's how I chose my raving after that.
You say we talked a bit earlier about how inclusive everybody was, and what a welcoming family the rave community was. Did you ever have any issues at all with your disability at raves? Anytime there was ever any, I don't know, because the thing is, when you go to a rave, they are unpredictable because there's loads of people taking loads of drugs. So and there are some dodgy people there. We know that about raves. Did you ever have any bad times where your disability became an issue at all, or was it, or anyone was weird about it?
You used to get stared at a bit, but I think a lot of people were freaking out because they couldn't work out what I was. You know, if they're off their head on these or something, it'd be like they'd be staring, but I don't think they were staring on purpose. It was just like, what the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Because I might have been turning into a transformer or something, but you know, I think it was freaking them out a little bit. But no, not really. You probably get, you know, you might get some moody people that you might have hit their feet, but you'd apologise and stuff like that, and then they'd be all right and they'd tap you on the back, and then you just move on. Really, I wouldn't. Yeah, my mates wouldn't. Yeah,
I think I
of course
wonder whether so when people are at a rave and they're on drugs, it makes them dance. Of course, that's one of the effects of ecstasy that's made it such a drug so associated with the rave scene. And I wonder whether there would have been some people who were like wondering what it would be like. I'm not saying that you were on drugs. I'm going to ask you that. So I'm going to ask you that shortly. But whether they were sort of thinking, well, I know that when I take ecstasy, it makes my legs go dancing around, and I wonder what it's like for someone who's on drugs in a wheelchair. So I do wonder. There's that sort of inquisitiveness, I suppose, about it.
Yeah,
Judgmental.
but you'd have like weird conversation with people that were off their head, and they would ask me if I was on drugs, and obviously I wasn't, because I just enjoyed the music. But they would ask if you wanted some, and I'd be like, no, I was scared of it anyway back then. I was, you know, I was a bit of a, I don't know. No, I didn't like the way I saw a few people and stuff like that when I was younger, and it put me off. So I just enjoyed the sound and everything else of it than the drugs. But yeah, I used to see a lot of people, in a bad way.
Incredibly annoying. Everyone was incredibly annoying. Like, what is it about this rave where everyone just chats so much shit?
But yeah, it didn't bother me because I knew they were just, it was the drugs doing that. So I just embraced it and stuff like that. But it was, most of the time it was my mates that were driving me mad because they're off their head. But
where you from, mate? How you doing? What you on?
Yeah.
The standard fucking conversation.
Yeah. Where you from? Yeah.
And your first Olympics was 1996 in Atlanta. Were you raving at that point?
Yeah, before that, I went to a few raves, but after as well, I sort of, it was. I think I went to Atlanta in '96, pretty much come back and fell out of love of the sport and wanted to do what my mates were doing, and that was going out all the time and raving and doing everything that they were doing. So I sort of decided to enjoy the raving scene. I remember going to my last world dance actually. I think it was at Lid Airport, and I just sort of got bored of that scene. I was sort of listening to garage music then as well, and I sort of went into that sort of sound. And I think, because I remember looking around and thinking, God, there's young kids here, and I think I was about 17 myself. Do you know what I mean? So I was just like, I was 17, 18. I think I was 18, and then I just thought, I'm not enjoying this music, and it was getting really moody and violent as well. And it was just like, I don't want to be here to be scared. I want to be here to be loving the sound and enjoying myself. And I just didn't. I started to not enjoy it, and I think I went to the Sanctuary for last time, and I think the drum and bass room was upstairs, so I was in that most of the time. And I think the last tune that I really, really enjoyed was Warhead, which I still listen to now in the car when I want to get pumped up, do you know what I mean, for a training session. So, and it just, and then I went into the garage scene after that.
What year was that?
Well, I started to listen. I've always loved house music from day one. Obviously, my brothers and stuff like that, and I loved that sort of sound anyway. Like I said, I was a follower and followed suit, and that's what I did. I followed garage after that, but I always wanted to get into the mixing side. So I started to try and mix drum and bass, but I didn't have the patience for it. I can mix it now, but not very good, I don't think. Well, I'm all right, but I prefer sort of that house sort of sound and garage sound, and so that's what I started to do, and started to practice mixing garage, and actually I went out more when I was in the garage scene than the rave scene, because I was older, could afford it a bit more, And you know, it was more of a clubbing scene than a warehouse sort of rave scene then. And I think that was about 97, 98 onwards to about 2000 that I really came the garage scene.
And would you hype yourself up for? Would you like? So I'm not comparing my sporting prowess to yours, by the way, but I play hockey, and before I play hockey, I'll often warm up and just put on an old school set and just enjoy that. Would you use rave music for your training?
Yeah, I've got a list of old school drum and bass in my playlist on iTunes. I've got the new Ray Keith album. I really like that, to be honest. It's not so heavy. It's nice to listen to. It's got a bit of old school bits in it as well, which I really like. Yeah, on the way to training, sometimes I whack up the drum and bass or the jungle and listen and reminisce. I reminisce a lot. Me and my mate reminisce a lot. We talk about the old times, about the estate, and having mad parties on there and stuff like that, and trying to DJ, and you couldn't even DJ to save your life, but you've just given it a go. So yeah, I sort of reminisce when I listen to the old school rave stuff.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Raw. There's plenty more where that came from, but now it's time to ask for your help. Raw is a hobby. It's not a very well paid hobby. In fact, it's frankly a bit of a money pit. We've put lots and lots of our own cash into doing this, but we could use your help to keep it going because we don't have endless pockets, sadly. Any donation, big or small, that you can give, we appreciate. It is a tough time for anyone, but anything you can give will go towards keeping this project on the road. If you want to help out, you can head to gofundme.com/the 90s Rave podcast. That address again is gofundme.com/the 90s Rave podcast. You can get a donation there. We appreciate anything you can give. Absolutely, we do. Also, if you want to head over to our socials, why don't you add us on Facebook? Why don't you add us on Twitter? Why don't you add us on Instagram? And of course, we are on YouTube. You just have to search for Raw, the 90s Rave podcast on all those different places. When you were playing your stuff, say for instance, when you were at the Olympics in 1996, did any of your teammates were like, "What you got on, mate? What you got on?" And did you play it to them? And did they think, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, a lot of them were like, "What is that you're listening to?" I was like, "Well, it's the in thing, isn't it?" And I think it's a cultural thing, and I think back then as well, a lot of estates were brought up on rave music. The illegal rave scene, or new genres of music coming out. It all started on estates, and I think because I was born on an estate and bred, and it was just in me to listen to it. And and I don't think, I can't say normal people because everyone's normal, but someone that's not from the state doesn't really appreciate what that kind of music. And because we didn't have social media or the internet, them sort of people didn't get to listen to that because it wasn't in the charts. Do you know what I mean? So when you talk to people about that, they didn't understand it because they've never heard it before, because it's not like now you can type in drum and bass and bosh, it comes up everywhere, or hardcore, and old videos of Helter Skelter come up. But back then, like, people were like, "What's this? What's that?" So it was quite a small knit family that listened to that and followed it around the country, wasn't it? And now obviously it's gone global and stuff like that because of the internet. But back then it was really small and people just didn't understand. I was like, "What is that rubbish? What are you listening to that for?" I was like, "Well, I like it." "What do you listen to?" "Oh, I listen to so and so, or this, or rock." I said, "Well, that's rubbish to me." Do you know what I mean? So it's it's just a preference of what you want to listen to.
Have you met anyone else in sport who's into the 90s rave scene? I think that once upon a time, Emil Heskey went to, or Bassman put on a rave for Emil Heskey's birthday. So, maybe, I don't know. I mean, he did do, I don't know whether Emil Heskey was at the event or was into it, but he did put on.
Well,
it'd be weird to put on a birthday for Emil Heskey if he wasn't into it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I think Heskey mixes, doesn't he? I think he gets on the decks and stuff like that, because when he used to do celebrations, he used to do that, didn't he? And stuff like that. So maybe, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Anyone else that you know of?
No, I'm trying to think, really. I think what's the triple long jumper that won? Greg Rutherford. I know he sort of likes the sort of when we was talking years ago, he liked a bit of the dubstep and stuff like that. So I think he was into sort of like sound and
I mean,
so
to be honest though, it's not that conducive, is it? Being into rave music and being, or even and going to raves, particularly if you do partake in that side of things that we've just mentioned, with with your schedule, which is incredibly punishing of
yeah.
training and competing. So I suppose it's not necessarily music many athletes would probably ever even think about, because it's just not a world they'd put themselves in.
No, and I think I was probably the only athlete that was doing it back then. Well, after Atlanta, I was sort of retired. I sort of retired myself at 17 and done all the raving scene and whatever, and caned it for 4 years. And then obviously it was when I watched Sydney on TV that I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? I've got no job, I've got no career. Am I wasting it just trying to, go to raves and trying to be like everyone else? And I thought, well, and that was a wake up call for me, to be honest. Still loved the music, still loved, everything about it, but I needed to make a career of myself, and that's what I did.
Well, I think it was probably the right choice. I think if you look back,
just about, just about.
It's done all right for you. I think it's probably done better for you. I mean, you look like you live in quite a nice house. I suspect if you'd have just gone down the rave scene, you might not do. So I think it was probably was the right move. Do you
my dream job would have been a DJ, to be honest. That was my dream of dreams, just being a world-class DJ. Yeah, and still now it's my little hobby that I do, and I'd love to, I've played out a few times, but not massive clubs and stuff like that. I've obviously done back in the day when I was like mixing garage, and I used to do my own little parties on the estate and stuff, and they used to rock and stuff like that. But that, I still got I've got my decks upstairs set up, and I still mix and stuff like that. I've got my own sound club, but I have it as private because I still, I like my mixes, but I don't know if people are lying to me if they're good or not. So
do you want to do a 90s rave mix for us?
I'd have to get the tunes though. I could do a jungle drum and bass, I reckon. Yeah.
Do it, man. Get it. Look, why don't you give it a go? And if it's utterly shit, we won't put it out. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's good.
And if it is utterly shit, you've got to let me say, David. I've got to say, I'm not
that's
sure.
That's I'd rather people be honest.
Yeah. And so, do you still do a bit of DJing? Do you ever go to any parties anymore at all?
Yeah, I sort of put my decks away and bring them out, put them. I haven't done. I did my own event. When was it? It must have been 2 years after 2012, so about 2014. One of my mates was a promoter, very low key, but he started to get massive, and his club nights were called I Love Mandy.
Who's Mandy?
His mum.
Oh yeah. What a lovely! Isn't that nice that he did a rave?
A lovely name,
and he named it after his mum. That is very sweet.
Yeah, his name's Tommy Mac.
Well, hello, Mandy Mac, if you're listening.
Yeah, Mandy Mac. So he started doing very good house nights in Croydon and started to get massive and stuff like that. And then the police started to close it down because there was nothing illegal. He was doing it all properly in clubs and stuff like that and promoting it. But because it said that he was promoting drugs, which he said he wasn't, it's his mum's name, he had to close it down. So I did a party with him. We just did I think we called it gold something. We did all the flyers, we did it in Sutton, and that was probably a couple of years ago where we got a few DJs in. We got MC Charlie White in, so we got him in because he's good friends with him, and we just did a sort of house night, and he was just like introducing the DJs and stuff like that. That went all right, but I just didn't have enough time. That's what I'd love to do. I'd love to do a bit more of that, more the DJing side than the promoting side.
Do you think that might be something that you could do post racing career? Because I mean, you're 41 now. I don't know how long you can feasibly continue in that
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, well, it's always been a dream. My dream was to own my own sort of venue and like have not a posh sort of venue, but something that had a really good sound system, good music, different nights with different music, to cater for all the genres, But with the pandemic and whatever it's going on now, is it a wise move to have any sort of entertainment night, a nightclub or bar or whatever? Because it seems like it's going to struggle anyway. So that was my dream when I retired, to do something like. Obviously, I'll still do a lot of stuff with the racing, which will be other stuff that I've got in line. But for me, as a hobby and a passion that I've always loved as much as racing, that I would love to definitely do something when I retire and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, you're probably not going to be retiring for a little while anyway, and COVID by that point might be something, the world's going to look very, very different by that point. You went to Skelter quite a few times. There's been talk of a Skelter comeback. Would you go to a Skelter comeback if it did come back?
Yeah, I definitely would. I'd give it a go and see what it's like. Might be really old. I don't know though. Would it be like some of the guys my age that used to go raving? Would they go, or would it be loads of youngsters going? You don't know, do you? It's a
So they did a resurrection, which pulled in about 8,000 to 10,000 people last year. I really regret it. Yeah, I was going to go and I didn't in the end, and I really regret it. And people that did, who I knew who went, were like, it was fantastic. Hearing some of that music on a massive system again. But the systems as well have improved, haven't they? Of course,
massively.
In the 20 years or 25 years since you were going and whatever, and the 90s rave scene was at its peak, and it was 8,000 people. So you just don't experience those moments anymore. So I think that people might go, you know what, I will go just for that one last hurrah of seeing 8,000 people in an arena with an amazing an amazing sound system.
Yeah. If like some of the lads I grew up with that did that, and I said, should we go to a Skelter? I know a lot of them would go, yeah, come on, let's just do it once. Let's just go back and see what it's like, and listen to the music. Hopefully they will play the sort of tunes that we were playing back then as well. If you get the old school DJs up, I suppose they would. But it would just be an experience to do it, even if you weren't there all night and just done a good few hours in there. It would, definitely. Yeah, I think I would go, to be honest.
Good man.
Definitely. I wouldn't put the jacket on though, because I don't think it would fit.
You might have to get a new one, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd hope that given you were 14 when you probably first owned those jackets, and you're now a multi-gold winning Olympian, you might have bulked out a bit.
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. The last 6 months I've bulked out even more, I think, as well. So
is that because of lockdown?
No, I was all right up until I did the marathon in October, but now because everything slowed down, I think, oh no, I'll eat that, or have a bit of that, or have a bit of that, and I'll be all right. But yeah.
How is your career going at the moment?
Do you know what? I'm mentally probably in the best place that I've ever been, and I'm enjoying the sport now. Before, I think it was a chore. It started to get a chore, and I was just doing it for other people and pleasing other people and not myself. And I had a mental breakdown in after 2016, and just with racing, and I split up with my kid's mum, and it was just a hard few years. And so I thought racing was, obviously loads of shit happened in Rio, and I got accused of throwing a race for the relay team. And when you get accused of things like that and saying that you don't deserve to wear a GB vest, it really, I was in a slippery downward slope. I was struggling badly and mentally. So even though I come back from that and won the London Marathon 2017, I didn't win it for myself. I don't know how I won it, and I struggled, but it took me a number of years to get back to the best that I can be. but mentally that was the focus, and I thought training was the one, or racing was the one that I was sick of. So I had a break from that, started training again, and realized I was feeling a bit more mentally better each day I was training. So then I realized that I had to go back to training, and that was my main focus. I wasn't focused about the racing, I was focused about myself. And then I started to realize that I started to enjoy myself, and doing the things that I want to do. Do you know what I mean? And have no one saying, you can't do that, you've got to do this, or you got to do, you know, you got agents, you got your coach, you got your partner, your kids. I wasn't doing. I felt like I was not my coach, because she was always backed whatever I wanted to do, or sometimes the agent would put pressure on you to do stuff, and it was just little things that were all coming together, and my head just went, I can't cope with this anymore. And then I just started doing things that I wanted to do. So, and I'm really enjoying training and life again. I met my new partner about 1.5 years ago now. She lives in Hastings, and since I've met her, it's been mentally, I've been in the best place ever. So, but I thank her, Victoria. She's been truly amazing, and she lets me do what I want to do, which is great. If I want to, I said, oh, do you mind if I get my decks out the garage and put them up in the room? She was like, yeah, if you want to. It was no like, oh, well, it might make the room look ugly, or this and that. And she's like, no, go and do what you want to do.
She sounds like a keeper.
Oh, mate, 100%. Marriage material, definitely.
Oh, good stuff. And how have you been impacted by COVID and lockdown, and how are you coping with that? I mean, you say you're in a good place mentally, but it is an incredibly difficult time for everybody.
Yeah, I obviously I'm involved with a lot of mental health people on social media and stuff like that, and I could see a lot of people can struggle with it. But for me, I didn't mind it. I'm not the most sociable guy anyway, so I didn't mind being, as long as I could go out and train, and see my kids, and that I was all right. I could go and see my kids, pick them up, bring them down here, and see them. Then I didn't mind lockdown, but I know a lot of people would struggle if they wasn't seeing people and stuff like that, and talking to people face to face. And that's why it's great to have Zoom, or everything. You can. I know it's not the same as seeing someone, but seeing someone's face to lighten up your day or make you laugh or something like that. At least it's not down the phone where you can't see them. So I just feel, I feel for the people that struggle. But lockdown, I actually trained better because I had nothing else to do. So obviously work dried up with commitments, with Q&As and stuff like that. That's where I make most of my living and stuff like that. Because a lot of people think that I'm rolling it and I'm multi-millionaire, but the Paralympic side, we do not get as much as the able-bodied athletics or sport people. So Q&As and stuff like that is my bread and butter, really. So that was a bit dry. So I just carried on training, and I got really fit over the summer and felt really strong in this London Marathon. So yeah, it hasn't done me bad. But I do talk to a lot of people, and I'm like with my academy as well in Kingston. I've got a lot of youngsters, so I'm always told them that I'm on the end of the phone if you don't want to talk to your parents, and we're always here. We've got Zoom, if you want a private chat and things like that. So I really am a big believer in mental health, because I didn't realise that I've struggled with it all my life, which I didn't know that until I spoke to a counsellor. And she said, tell me your story. And when I started talking about my disability and how I felt when I was younger, I used to be very angry and upset with my disability, and asking questions why, with just, I remember just crying every night until I was probably about 16, 17. Like, why am I like this? I'm on an estate. I'm different to everyone else. I want to play bloody football. I want to ride a bike. Why have you chose me? Do you know what I mean? So it was just, so when, that's just why I try and talk to the young kids, because I know they're going through the same thing. you know, why me? Why am I like this? Right? And it drains the fuck out of you, to be honest, until you accept that you're going to be disabled for the rest of your life, you know.
And
So
have you now come to accept that, and
yeah,
that's
I've
why you're
sort of
in such a good place now, I suppose.
yeah, no, I've sort of accepted my disability when I was younger, but I sort of still was angry with why am I like this. But I think as you get older and society changes, you know, a lot more people were seeing disabled people on telly, seeing them out on the streets. There was more access to get on bloody buses and trains and buildings, and so you see a lot more disabled people and young kids now. My kids at my age, my kids at their age, they accept disabled people because they see it on TV. Do you know what I mean? So when they're out, they don't stare, they don't ask questions, they don't, you know, sometimes you hear an odd kid when you're walking, "Mummy, why is he in the wheelchair?" Yeah, I don't mind that. I'd rather the mum go because he's probably had an accident, or ask him. And then you get them up, some of the parents go, "Shh, shh." But that, I think that's rude. Just ask. Do you know what I mean? Just ask. So, you know, and I think that society's just changed and accepted different people, and it's got easier as you've got older. And back then in the 90s and 80s and stuff, it was hell to be different. Do you know what I mean? I had this discussion with, you know, my black friend Tarek. You know, when we was growing up, he was different because he was black, and I was in a wheelchair, and like when everything was going off with Black Lives Matters and stuff like that, I was talking to him and I said, "I know how you feel," and he said, "Yeah, I know." Because I do know how he feels, because I've got disability. Obviously, I don't know because of the colour of my skin, but I just understood it all, and yeah. So it's getting better as you know, the young kids are getting more opportunities to do things, but you know, they're still getting abused at schools. With, you know, they're going to mainstream schools now, disabled kids, and you know, a lot of the guys at my academy, they struggle because they're different. You know, they can't do the stuff that they, you know, PE and stuff like that, they're left in the corner, or they try and do something else. They want to be included. It's inclusion, and they struggle. So when they come to the academy, they feel included, and that's what the academy is about, and that's why I started it.
Nice. And you've said you've kept yourself very fit. Of course, there's another lockdown. You've got plenty more time to continue doing that. You've got the Tokyo Paralympics and Olympics next summer, if they happen. Are you expecting it will happen, and you're going to be there?
Yeah, I spoke to a few Japanese athletes while we was doing the London Marathon, and a Japanese coach, he said it definitely will go ahead. I think we'll be all tested before we go, like we did in the marathon. Um, yeah, and I think it'll be in a safe bubble, because most of the guys will be in the village, and then go to the venue, then come back. And even if we're tested every other day, I can't see it not happening, to be honest, because there's techniques and testing that can be. I think now they found you can do it and find the results in 15 minutes. So, you know, if yeah, I'll definitely go ahead. And yes, I will be there. I am doing just the marathon, and I'm actually going early this time. I'm going to live and stay with some of the Japanese athletes to get to know the culture and get used to the heat, because it's going to be really hot. So yeah, I'm going to live and be a Japanese person for a while, which I'm excited about, actually.
And how long can you go on for, being as you are 41?
That'd probably be my last Paralympics, sorry. And I will still do the marathon circuit after, because I'm still quite competitive and still competing with the best guys in the world. And you know, the last 4 or 5 marathons I've done, I've been in the top 3. So, you know, at my age, that's pretty good. I'm you know, as soon as I feel like I'm dropping away, I'm not with the top guys, then I know it's. I've always said to myself, if you slip back in that second pack, or the other guys, then I'm nothing against them guys, but that'll be the time that I'll say, right, that's it now, I'll call it a day.
Well, that might be in 2 or 3 or 4 years, and by that point, COVID might have gone away, and it's about time to launch your club. I think it's a perfect
Maybe.
timeline.
Yeah, it could be. It'd be a good thing to do. And you know what? I've been looking around because I live in Hastings now, so there's not much down here.
But
You know,
lots of people moving there who are trendy and into probably, you know, some techno, for instance. They might, you know.
Yeah, but there's a, you know, you've got Hastings Pier, and in the summer they converted it so there was like beer garden sort of tables outside, like loads of them, and then there was a DJ at the top on this, like where the stairs go up and there's a top layer, and I was thinking, God, that'd be a good summer thing. I think there was a garage there.
Uncle Doug's put on an event there, a sort of sit-down rave. Yeah, pretty sure it was at Hastings Pier.
I went to a rave there in the 90s, Hastings Pier, the old Hastings Pier. Yeah.
What was it? Was it Adrenaline?
It might have been. It was a really random night where I wasn't going out, and then someone said, "Look, I'm going to Hastings. I've got a spare ticket. Do you want to come?" And that wasn't even my sort of group of friends that I hung about with, just someone I knew. And he went, "Come with me." I was like, "All right." But nothing else to do. And I remember going there on Hastings Pier. Yeah.
I went to Hastings Pier recently with my 3-year-old daughter. I suspect it was rather a different experience.
Yeah, I've been on there with my kids as well, and it's totally different. Yeah. But
right, look, over there, right? That was where I used to, we up by the speakers over there, and that's where I was in the chill out room having a fag, you know, and like, shut up, Dad, you boring old sod.
Yeah, so I'd like to do something down there somewhere, because it's quite a cool place. There's some cool kids walking around and stuff like that, and you know, they'll be into all sorts of underground music. So it's something that I've been looking into, and hopefully I can do in the future.
Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure and joy talking to you. Thank you very much for your time and for telling us all about your 90s rave memories and moments and all that sort of stuff. And now what you've got to do is you've got to get up in that loft and get those decks out and try and do us a 90s rave mix. And if it's
mate.
If it's any good, we'll do it, right?
Yeah, I'll get down and start downloading some old school tunes and stuff like that. And I'll give it a go, and I'll let you know.
Top man, you're a star. Listen, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Cheers, buddy. That is David Weir there, who is one of the greatest Paralympians of all time, and British indeed, and talking about all of his 90s rave moments. Went to all the big raves. Fantastic guest here on More Raw. Peace. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the latest episode of Raw. We've certainly enjoyed making it and bringing it to you, and we want to make more. But to do so, we are going to need some of your help, I'm afraid. We are just normal people with normal jobs. This is a hobby and not a very well paid one at that. In fact, it's not paid at all. We've invested quite a bit of our money to keep this show going, but we could really use some of your help as well. Any donation, big or small. We know it's a difficult time for you all out there. It's a difficult time for all of us. But any donation you can give, whatever size, will help us go towards improving our kit, help us get on the road, pay expenses to go and interview some of your 90s rave favourites, and also just keep bringing you some more banging 90s rave content. If you do feel able to help, that'd be great. If you don't, we do understand, but if you can, head over to gofundme.com/the 90s rave podcast. That address, I'll repeat just one more time, gofundme.com/the 90s rave podcast. And if you can't give any money, or you want to join our community, why don't you head over to Twitter, why don't you head over to Instagram, why don't you head over to YouTube, and why don't you head over to Facebook. Search Raw, the 90s Rave podcast. Like us, subscribe to us, do all that, get involved.